Please leave a comment where you are watching in the world. Please support us by visiting our new Patreon channel. Link in the description. Enjoy. Alright, so let me preface this by saying I'm not usually the kind of guy who has wild, chaotic stories to tell. My life is pretty boring, honestly. I work a 9-to-5 job in IT, spend my weekends binge-watching Netflix, and my idea of excitement is deciding to order takeout instead of cooking. This all started when I matched with this girl. Let's call her Rachel, on Tinder. Rachel seemed perfect. She was funny, sarcastic in the best way, and didn't have any of those painfully staged hiking photos where she pretended to love the outdoors. She had pictures with her cat, posted memes about existential dread, and made jokes about having terrible taste in men. A real 10 out of 10 personality match, in my opinion. We chatted for a week before I finally worked up the nerve to ask her out. She suggested something casual, which I was all for because casual meant less pressure. I threw out the idea of a movie night at my place. I know that sounds like a move straight out of the Netflix and chill handbook, but I swear my intentions were innocent mostly. She agreed, and I immediately started freaking out about making everything perfect. I cleaned my apartment, which means I shoved everything I owned into my closet, prayed it wouldn't burst open, and lit some candles to cover up the lingering smell of frozen burritos. I also ordered a pizza, but not just any pizza, a fancy pizza. We're talking prosciutto, arugula, truffle oil. The kind of pizza that costs as much as a car payment, but makes you feel like you're better than everyone else. Rachel texted me saying she'd be a little late, no big deal, so I decided to keep the pizza warm in the oven. I thought I was being smart. Spoiler, I was not being smart. She finally showed up around 7:30, looking even better in person than in her photos. I, of course, immediately forgot how to speak like a normal human being. She made some comment about my artsy apartment decor, aka my mismatched IKEA furniture, and I tried to play it cool, but my palms were already sweating. We opened a bottle of wine, settled in on the couch, and started chatting. It was going so well. Like, too well. The kind of well that makes you nervous because you just know something is about to go wrong. And then it did. We were in the middle of making out when I heard it. Beep, beep, beep. I froze. Rachel froze. "What was that?" she asked, pulling away slightly. I tried to act casual, even though my brain was already in full panic mode. Probably the oven timer or something," I said. But then the beeping turned into beep, 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 beep. At this point, I bolted off the couch, practically tripping over myself to get to the kitchen. The second I stepped in, I was hit with smoke. Like cartoon level, black cloud billowing out of the oven smoke. My first thought, oh my God, I'm gonna burn this place down. My second thought, I am naked. I should probably clarify here that Rachel and I had gotten a little ahead of ourselves during the making out session. I had ditched my shirt at some point, and in my rush to check the oven, I hadn't even thought about throwing it back on. So there I was, shirtless, panicking, and trying to fight off a literal smoke monster. I flung the oven door open, and that's when I saw it. The pizza box. It was on fire. I'm talking flames licking the top of the oven, little embers falling onto the floor. I completely lost it. OF, OF, OF. Rachel came running into the kitchen, looking just as panicked as I felt. "What's happening?" The pizza is on fire." I grabbed the box, not even thinking, and started yelling, "Where do I put it?" Rachel screamed, "The sink." But here's the thing, the sink was full. Like I hadn't washed dishes in a solid week, and it was overflowing with dirty plates and pans. So now I'm standing there holding a flaming pizza box, running in circles like a headless chicken, while Rachel is shouting instructions at me. "The bathtub," she finally yelled. I don't know what possessed me, but I sprinted to the bathroom, still shirtless, holding this blazing pizza box. Sparks and ash were falling all over the carpet, and I was fully convinced I was about to set the whole apartment building on fire. I made it to the tub, threw the box in, and turned on the shower. The water hit it, and there was this horrifying sizzle, followed by a burst of steam and more smoke. Rachel was right behind me, now laughing hysterically as I stood there, soaking wet, still shirtless, and covered in ash like some kind of deranged chimney sweep. After we made sure nothing else was going to catch fire, we just stood there in silence for a minute. Then Rachel burst out laughing again. "So, does this mean dinner's ruined?" I couldn't even be mad. It was honestly hilarious. We ended up cleaning everything up together. Her in my oversized hoodie because the smoke had made her clothes smell awful, and me still shirtless because, well, at that point it didn't even matter. We ordered Chinese food instead, sat on the couch, and replayed the entire fiasco while stuffing our faces with lo mein. Rachel and I actually went out a few more times after that, but things eventually fizzled out. Still, every time I see a pizza box now, I get a little bit of PTSD. And yes, I still have burn marks in my bathtub and carpet as a reminder of that night. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Never leave a pizza box in the oven. Or at least wear a shirt when you do. I am not proud of the decisions I made at this point in my life, and I feel the need to explain a few things first. At the time this happened, I was 26 and living with my parents. My father had lost his job, and my mother broke her leg. My grandmother was fighting cancer, and the whole family just sort of came together to help each other out and get through. I moved from the town I was taking some occasional university classes at to back home, took a full-time job in pharmacy, and just turned into a workhorse, 60 hours a week on my feet. I had just gotten out of a bad relationship and was extremely lonely and cooped up in my parents' house around all the depressing stuff. After a few months of this, I decided to get online and see if I couldn't find someone to have a little happiness with. After being banned from Plenty of Fish, another story entirely, I got on OkCupid. I met a girl who looked gorgeous in all her pictures. We sent some messages back and forth, and I found her to be pretty interesting. We agreed to meet. It turned out she was just a few months shy of 21 and couldn't go to the bars or have drinks with dinner. And as is pretty standard for these type of things, drinks are a must. So I agree to buy some booze to bring with me to her place. So I get myself cleaned up, haircut, clean the car, do the grocery shopping, print directions to her place, and then get on the road. It turns out the directions were crap, and I ended up making a 3-hour trip of it to her place, not realizing how far away she really lived. I get to this girl's place, and oh shit, it's low-income housing for the impoverished. I knew I was in that kind of neighborhood when I saw 2 young white trash teenage kids hitting a cat with a jump rope in the parking lot outside this girl's apartment. Somewhere in the distance, I heard God and my ex-girlfriend laughing together. She came outside to greet me. She wasn't fat, but she looked really unhealthy. Some spare flab around the middle, dressed in a slutty, unflattering way in dirty clothes. Her jeans were so long they drug on the pavement around her feet and had turned brown at the heels and smelled like they were infused with cigarette smoke. She had the look of a girl who ate too much fast food and too many painkillers. She was the oldest 20-year-old I'd ever seen. But still, she had a nice face, and I had come a long way. I remembered our playful, interesting talks, and so give her my best smile, and tell her it's nice to finally meet her. She smiled at me, and oh God, she had a set of peach-colored chompers that looked like they were often used to open Coke bottles. It dawned on me I had never seen her teeth in any of her pictures, just her boobs. I cursed myself for being so dumb and hard up. I do the quick decision to just go for it anyway. Nobody knew this girl, or that I was there, or what I was about to do. And no one need ever know. I could take my shame and bury it. I had already invested so much time and energy in this. I clutched at the 6-pack and the bottle of Jose in my paper bag like a life preserver. Me and Jose would make it through together. We drink our beers and watch Idiocracy on her couch while talking a bit. I learned she is jobless, did not graduate high school, lives on government assistance. And the worst, for me, she had no desire or plan to improve these things. She was happy. I break out the tequila, and we start taking pulls on the bottle. The sun is going down, but not quickly enough. I am sinking faster than it is. We go out on our balcony, and some of the brighter stars are already visible in the sky. The tequila came with. Eventually, I'm drunk enough. The sun is down, and by the light of a bug zapper her face is not bad at all. I kiss her. After a few minutes of kissing, she goes in to put some music on. Not but a moment passes before I hear the dulcet tones of ICP drifting on the wind. I consider leaping from the balcony to my death, but decide it'd be too embarrassing for my friends and family to find out I was there. Turns out the girl doesn't have a bed. As she gets drunker, she begins to share more about herself, and I'll spare the details, but it's apparent she is a very damaged person. My head is spinning from the booze, but I had a sudden moment of clarity. This girl is drunk. Although she is of legal age for a good romp, she is mentally not older than a high schooler, and although not too drunk to consent, I know I'm never going to call her or see her after, and I think of what this might do to a damaged girl with issues. I excuse myself to use her bathroom and start drinking water from the tap to sober up. I remember staring at myself in the mirror and just thinking of how thankful I am for everything that I have in my life. When I come out, she is passed out on her couch. I gather my shoes, wallet, keys. Money is missing from my wallet, but not much, and the girl doesn't even have a bed. I just shake my head and leave. Once on the highway, I drive like an idiot. I'm drunk and lost. I get pulled over by the cops in my parents' truck, smelling like tequila and not wearing my shoes. I had switched cars with my parents. Their truck was too difficult for my mother or grandmother to get up into with their physical conditions. The police ask me if I've been drinking. I just say simply yes, I have been drinking. I give them my papers and whatnot, and they ask me to step out of the car, and I do the breathalyzer. The cops see the results and start laughing to each other, but don't tell me the results, but they don't really need to. I know I'm too drunk to drive, but couldn't fathom having stayed at that girl's place any longer. I gambled and lost, but to this day I'm just glad I didn't hurt anyone, and I've never driven drunk again. After the cops asked me why I was so far from home, and what I'd been doing that night, I just tell them the whole story. I made them laugh, mostly at my stupidity. There is a moment though that sticks to me still. The officer said to me, "You live with your parents, and this is their car? How old are you now?" I've never felt so low. They took pity on me. There was a hotel across the street, and they gave me a choice. Check in or go to jail, so I got a room for one. The cop said he saw I'd never been in trouble before, and because I work so much and am trying to finish school, he wasn't going to ruin my future, even though I'm already old as fuck. I woke up in the morning in the hotel bed. I called my boss and told him I wouldn't be coming in. I just sat in the bathtub in that shitty hotel on the highway in some part of Indiana nobody need ever go to, thinking about everything I'd done, the risks I'd taken, how I could have hurt someone, how lucky I was, how bad I felt for that girl, how grateful I was to those cops, what kind of person I wanted to be from then on. I thought so much I booked that room for another night and just stayed there, thinking some more. I don't know why I've typed all of this, if it's relevant, if anyone will read it. I don't know what the point of it is, really, only that I still feel shame, and this is cathartic. I'll try to say something meaningful, though, and wrap it up. I was a man drowning in my family problems, work problems, and personal problems of loneliness and academic failure, unsure of where to go in life, and just so unbelievably exhausted from working myself to the bone and seeing no meaningful gains in life. I thought finding a woman would help me to fix myself, so I got online. And in order to find a woman, I painted myself in the best possible light by misrepresenting who I was and what I was about. I omitted my problems. I was an iceberg with a polished 10% shining above the water and a heap of shit underneath. I met my match and got what I deserved. I think this is in essence what all online dating is. People who can't function in everyday life, so they hide behind the screen, putting through the net tubes only the parts about themselves they know others will like, or only the lies they think they can get away with. If you are lonely and you think you absolutely need to find someone so that you can be happy, that's the impression I got from so many people I met online, then chances are there are other things in life bringing you down besides just being alone. Work on those things first, knock them out so you can be truly happy on your own, and then finding someone to be with will be easier. It will happen naturally, and it will be a beautiful thing when it happens. After I checked out of that hotel, I turned my life around and met a wonderful woman, and we are very much in love and will probably get married soon. I'm grateful for that, but it wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't confronted my own shit. If I had kept hiding behind the screen, misrepresenting myself in the hope of getting my dick wet here and there with strangers, I'd probably have ended up in that shitty motel bathtub again, considering opening up a vein to let all the regret out. In parting, love yourself, love your neighbor. Do not meet your neighbor's wife on Match.com, and try to love her. Bear with me. It gets good towards the end. This happened a couple years ago. The receptionist at one of my clients begged me into meeting her best friend, who just moved to LA from Phoenix. She swore up and down we were perfect for each other. I checked out her OKC profile, chatted back and forth for a few days, then talked to the mystery girl once on the phone, and we decided to meet for dinner and drinks at a local bar and grill after her shift. She's a nurse, was over on a Tuesday night. We meet. She's an adorable, petite, dirty blonde with glasses and freckles. Totally my type. I could tell she was a bit nervous. We sit down and order drinks. She downs her apple martini in less than 5 minutes, orders another and apologizes, stating she wants to loosen up a bit because she's nervous since her friend talked me up so much. Which is odd since I don't even know her friend that well at all. Fast forward a bit. She ended up having 2 martinis before the appetizers came, 2 more in between appetizers and 3 more during dinner, and one more right before the check came. Total martinis had by a 5 feet 3 inches, 110 lb girl in a 3-hour period. 7 Surprisingly, the conversation during this period did quite well. The trouble came as we were about to leave, and she decided to use the restroom before we hit the road. She fell twice on the way, and once on the way back. Since she was clearly hammered, I offered to drive her home and give her some cash for a cab in the morning to pick her car up. She agreed but declined the cash. Mind you, it's nearing midnight, and I have to get up at 5:30 for work. As we are driving toward her apartment, it becomes apparent that, combined with her drunken state and the fact she's lived in the valley for less than 2 weeks, she forgot her address and how to get herself home. We drive around North Hollywood and Studio City for an hour, trying to remember her street or any local landmarks. This fails, and I'm getting tired/frustrated. I offer to let her stay at my place. Nothing weird. She can crash on my bed, and I'll take the couch. She's okay with this. On my way back to my place, she attempts to throw up out the car window, but doesn't realize the window was never open in the first place. Vomit everywhere. Now she's crying and apologizing like crazy. I get her to my apartment, carry her up the 3 flights of stairs, and toss her on my bed. She's out cold. I go downstairs and spend another 40 minutes cleaning out my car, and finally get to sleep on my couch around 2 a.m. Around 4:30 a.m., I'm awoken by a shrill scream coming from my bedroom. I run in wearing just my boxers, flip the light on. The girl pauses for a second, looks at me and screams more, backs into a corner, and throws my nightstand lamp at me while yelling, "Who the fuck are you?" It takes a minute for me to calm her down and explain the situation and remind her of our night. It eventually all comes back to her. She starts crying and apologizing. After I calm her down some more, I give her a ride home. During our ride home, the awkward silence is only broken by her apologizing while sobbing, telling me how to get to her place, and then asking if we hooked up. I told her we didn't, and that I'm not the creepy type to take advantage of girls in her condition. She replied with something along the lines of, "Oh, okay. I'm not typically a lush, and I'm definitely not a slut. I was just super nervous and didn't know my limit last night. You seem great, and I hope we can see each other again." I ended up saying, sure, just to avoid any more awkwardness, gave her an in-car hug, and said goodnight. The next day, while slothing around work in a meeting, she called. It went to voicemail. Immediately she called again. Twice. Finally she left a voicemail. Said voicemail went something like this: "So I was thinking about what I asked you on our way home last night in regards to us hooking up. And I'm kind of curious as to why you didn't try anything with me. Is it because you think you're too good for me, huh? Mr. Big Shot LA guy? Well, whatever. I'm not a slut and don't sleep around, but you missed a shot at some awesome sex last night. So whatever." Click about half an hour later, while I'm still in the meeting, she calls and leaves another voicemail. This time crying. "I'm sorry about what I said earlier. I'm just having trouble adjusting to a new place. I'm homesick. You seem real great. Please call me back, and please don't ignore me. Please. I'm sorry." Needless to say, I didn't call her back. Her friend, the receptionist, apologized profusely the next time I saw her. We didn't talk much about it after that. Blind date and new girl in town gets blackout drunk on first date. Pukes all over my car. Can't drive or remember way to her apartment. Stays at my place in my bed while I sleep on my couch. Wakes up at 4 a.m., doesn't know where she is, freaks out, screams, throws lamp at me. I calm her down, take her home. She calls me 4 times the next day, leaves voicemail scathing me for not taking advantage of her. Calls back shortly after and apologizes, asks to hang out again. I never speak to her again. 6 or 7 years ago, I was a regular IRC chatter. I started talking to a girl there, let's call her Jenny, and we hit it off. She had a wry, somewhat cynical sense of humor. I realized that she was maybe 10 years younger than me, but since, according to her, she was over 18, meeting up shouldn't be a problem. She lived in Florida, I live in Denmark. So one evening, we talk about her visiting over the summer. I go to cook dinner, and when I finish eating, sign back on IRC. She tells me that she's bought a ticket and will stay for 3 months. I tell her, whoa, that's a really long time. I was thinking a couple of weeks or so. But since she has already paid for the ticket, I feel forced to let her stay. Fortunately, many of the other people in the IRC channel, where we hang out, are also Danes, and want her to visit them. During the time we have known each other, she has sent photos of herself, and I'm quite surprised when she looks nothing like her photos. When I meet her at the airport, I expect to see a chubby young woman, but I was not expecting her to be 150 centimeters tall and just as wide, at least. I'm 180 centimeters and weigh about 90 kilograms. I'm fairly sure she weighs more than I do. Now, I'm not a shallow person, so I think to myself, well, at least she has a great personality, right? Wrong. Over the next 2 days, I find out that not only is she immature and sheltered, but apparently her whole world is made up of deceit, lies, and huge amounts of drama. She has lied about so many things, including, and I don't find out about this until the day before she leaves, her age. But more on this later. She has apparently also told her parents that she is visiting her friend Kathy in Denmark, who is married to a brain surgeon. I don't know anyone named Kathy. I am not a brain surgeon, but a photographer. If things don't go exactly according to her plan, she will immediately start wailing and sobbing, stamping her feet, and punch the walls. So when I confront her and ask her why she has been lying to her parents, she throws the mother of all hissy fits. Eventually, after 2 hours of coaxing, I manage to talk her down. On the third day, my nerves are frayed from her drama and lies. I can't make any sense of her cockamamie web of deceit. My apartment is so messy that I don't recognize it. She insists she will do the cooking, and to her credit, she did not do a bad job of the actual food preparation. But unfailingly, every single time she has cooked a meal, every single pot, pan, and utensil will be dirty, and I will spend 40 minutes to an hour doing the dishes. She eats around the clock. Every day, I completely restock the fridge. On the 5th day, I tag in one of my friends and his wife, who is American, we can call them Hank and Gabby, and arrange with them to let Jenny stay with them for a few days, and then send her off to meet up with her other internet friends in the area. I am exhausted, and honestly, very tired of taking care of this petulant little compulsive liar who completely wrecks my apartment every single day. My friend, let's call him Matthew, flies in from Sweden while Jenny is away, and we spend 2 days completely cleaning up all the mess Jenny has made. We discover that she has gouged deep furrows into my brand new and expensive dining table by using it as a cutting block. She has also broken the shower head. I have no idea how. Matthew stays for 4 days. We watch movies and go for photography walks around the city. The day after he goes back home, Jenny returns. In less than an hour, she completely wrecks my apartment. At this point, I've had enough, and I tell her that she has to change the date of her return flight because I've gotten a photography assignment abroad. Cue wall-pounding hysterical rage for an epic 6 hours. At my wit's end, I call Hank and Gabby to ask them for advice. Gabby picks up, and as soon as she hears the wailing in the background, she tells me they'll be right over. When Jenny finds out, she stops crying and runs to the bathroom. The shower starts running. Hank and Gabby come over, and Gabby, who also has had enough, has some choice words for Jenny, who does not reply. They help me put all of Jenny's things in, on, or near her suitcase, and as we're doing this we find a passport, which clearly states that she is, in fact, 16 years old. Not my proudest moment. We finish packing, and then they go home. As soon as the door shuts, Jenny unlocks the bathroom door. Apparently, she has been sitting in the shower, on the drain, thus flooding the entire bathroom with a good inch or so of water. I hand her the phone, and tell her to either call the airline to book a new return flight, or call the nearest hotel to make arrangements with them for the rest of her stay in Denmark. She turns on the waterworks again, but when she sees the look on my face, she immediately stops and does as told. The next morning, she leaves, bawling her head off. I have had enough at this point, and can't be bothered to even walk her to the station, which is 4 minutes away by foot. The day after, she calls and tells me she got home all right, and thank you for a wonderful time, and can she please come visit again soon. I tell her that we will have to discuss this later, as I'm about to leave my apartment for a photo job downtown, which is true. While I'm out, she calls my home phone 197 times, my cell phone, which is on silent, 337 times, and there are also 53 emails when I open my Outlook. These numbers are factual, not exaggerations. This is the final straw. Next time she calls, I lose it and yell at her incoherently, tell her to never contact me again, and hang up. I block her from all avenues that I can think of where she might be able to contact me, and that, fortunately, is that. If you've made it this far, I thank you. Things have gotten better for me. I'm married to a gorgeous Japanese woman, who I've known ever since she was an exchange student here 8 years ago, and who is moving here in just about a month, and life is good. Story 5. Fall of 2010, I joined OkCupid. I was just out of a marriage and not looking for another relationship. I just wanted to go on some dates, maybe have some funny stories, maybe even get laid. Filled out my profile, answered a ridiculous amount of questions. I had it listed in my profile that I was particularly into astrophysics and the universe because of the general feeling of mindfuckery I get while contemplating it. A few weeks in, I get a message from a guy with a 99% match rating. He was my highest match in the entire country and lived a few miles away. It says, "How do you feel about string theory?" And this was so refreshing after weeks of, "Yo baby, what's up?" or "Hey, I see you're bisexual. Would you like to have a threesome with me and my really unattractive husband?" So we chatted for a bit, added each other on Facebook, scheduled a date for the next weekend. We seemed to get along really well. Time for the date. I show up, he's waiting for me outside. He's hot. I am smart, funny, witty, generally great to be around, and I've got a cute face, but I listed my body type as curvy, and anybody who's done online dating knows what that means. I'm not disgustingly overweight, but there it is. I compare myself to Pam Poovey, a sturdy bisexual who's a knockout in the sack. We ordered dinner and smoked a hookah, and before I knew it, the waitress was kindly asking us to leave because it was 2 in the morning and the restaurant had closed an hour ago. Oops. I was so caught up in our conversation that I lost track of time. It was amazing. I was caught hook, line, and sinker. So we start to leave the restaurant, and I have the sudden realization that our date is ending. And I'm so fucking into him, but there's just no way that he likes me because he's in amazing shape and I'm overweight. So now I'm faced with an ass-out hug or "I'm not attracted to you" handshake. We make it to my car and I get all SAP and try to say bye really quickly and run away, but he pulled me in for a kiss. We made out in the back seat of his car like teenagers until the sun came up. On our next date, we figured out that we have incredible sexual chemistry. After a few weeks, it's looking like I'm gonna have to lock this shit down, so we enter a relationship. And then months later, I love him. And then he loves me. So we move in together. We click in a way that I never knew was possible. I still get so excited to come home to him every night. I love the way he buys me Stephen Hawking's books and makes me breakfast in the morning, and we watch documentaries. I'm having the best sex of my life almost every day. We're trying for a baby. Anyway, I figured there was going to be a whole bunch of scary stories on this thread, and it might be helpful for people to see that online dating really can help you find an amazing person to share your life with. P.S. I also met a guy on OkCupid who spent our entire date telling me about FEMA death camps, Obama's Kenyan birth, stockpiled coffins, all of the really out there conspiracy bullshit. I just got drunk and played on my phone. About 4 years ago, reeling from a nasty breakup, I decided to give Match.com a try. A couple weeks after signing up, I received a message from a guy named Justin. He was cute and just my type, and we set up a date. We got along really well in person, and ended up going on a couple more dates. It seemed like everything was going well. Justin lived in Fullerton, and it was my turn to drive to him for a date. We headed over to Dave and Buster's, and had a great time playing air hockey and Dance Dance Revolution. Then we decided to head back to his place to watch a movie. We'd kissed a couple times, and Justin was an excellent kisser. I was looking forward to cuddling and more kissing. But first we decided to make a stop at 7-Eleven for some munchies. We gathered up a couple sodas and some candy, and took them up to the register. $6.66, said the cashier as I pulled out my wallet to pay. Justin gasped loudly. "We can't possibly leave the total at $6.66, he exclaimed. "That's the mark of the devil." I just laughed. Justin got a very serious look on his face. "If we leave the total like that, we're going to get in a car accident on the way home and die." At this point, I felt he was being ridiculous. "Fine, grab something else if it bothers you that much." He threw a York peppermint patty on the counter and was satisfied when the total became $7.42. And we headed back to his place. After picking out a movie, we grabbed our bag of snacks and plopped down on his bed. I proceeded to take off my shoes and get comfortable. But Justin gasped again. "Oh, my God," he said. "Are those the socks with separate toes? Those really freak me out." I looked down at my striped toe socks. How could anyone be freaked out by something so goofy? "Seriously," he said, "I can't handle those socks. They really bother me." I just looked at him and leaned back on the bed. I was already over it. Little did I know Justin was just getting started. "Oh my God," he exclaimed. I could see that a light had just gone off inside his head. "I get it now. You're a witch. It all makes sense." "Come again?" I asked. "It all makes sense. Your black cat. Your love of bats. Your stripy witch socks. And you weren't even bothered by the $6.66. Are you a witch?" "Get real," I said. "I'm not a fucking witch." But I could see the guy was serious. "Retard. Well, I think you're a witch," he said. "And can you please take off your socks? They're really bothering me." "I'm not taking off my damn socks," I replied. "You're being silly." "I can't help it. Those socks really freak me out. I'll do anything for you to take them off." "I'll pay you to take them off." "Any amount." "You'll pay me?" I asked. "Yes," came his reply. "Fine. Pay me $6.66. He glared at me as I packed up my stuff and left. And that was the last I ever saw of Justin. It was a warm summer night. We were 15, and we were in love. No, wait, scratch that. We were 15 and wanted to grind crotches. That's the one. I was over at my friend's place chilling out. He was playing Diablo 2, and I was on the other computer chatting on MSN when, lo and behold, she logged on. After some small talk, I mentioned I was in town at Joe's, pseudonym, place, and she said I should come over to her house. We had talked beforehand about sex and fooling around, made out a bit, and we both wanted to screw, but parents etc. kept getting in the way. I told Joe that I was going to go and try to get laid, and he was understandably supportive. And with that, I was off into the night. It was midnight or shortly after, cloudy but hot out, and the orange glow from the city lit up the night remarkably well. As I walked and pondered the possible events to come, I was accompanied by the distant yet booming sound of thunder. I really should have noticed the smell of rain in the air. I made quick work of the several blocks between us and came to her house, going to her bedroom window as was previously directed. Knock knock, she came to the window with a finger to her lips, wearing a black bra and pink underwear, and pointed down. My eyes followed her gesture to the still form of her young brother, lying on her bedroom floor. She preempted my curiosity with, "He gets afraid of thunderstorms, so he is going to sleep in here tonight." To which I asked with more of a look of disappointment and confusion than words, "But I wanted to plow you, all romantic-like." Her smile told me I was still in business. I crawled into her window, took off my shoes and left them on her bedroom floor, and we stepped out of her room and made our way to her basement. The lights were out, as we did not want to wake her religious parents, but she knew her way around and led me past the table to her couch. After a few minutes of pathetic teenager make-out and pawing, things got serious, and I was awarded my first blowjob. It goes without saying that it was fantastic, as I have only had one bad BJ in my entire life, horror story for another day perhaps, and after a while I returned the favor to her. After the foreplay, we moved on to the sex. Being the responsible young adult that I was, I had brought 2 condoms, and being the retarded young adults that we were, she advised I wear them both for extra protection, and I did. Cue worst sex ever. But I'm fairly sure it did happen. In the throes of passion, we were totally unaware that the distant rumbling of thunder had become the storm of the year directly above our town, and the rain and thunder eventually tore our attention away. Wait a minute. That doesn't sound like rain. That sounds like footsteps. To this day, I have yet to see anyone do anything faster than that Christian girl get dressed. She was dressed and tugging at my arm before I had my pants fully done up. So I grabbed my shirt and my socks, and she dragged me up the stairs and across the common room. Well, mostly across. About halfway down, the telltale flicker of flashlights descends the stairs. Turns out the power had been knocked out by the storm. Not having enough time to get to her room without being seen, she shoved me into the bathroom beside us and went to address her parents as I climbed into the shower stall and cowered. Outside I heard them conversing. Her parents, having no suspicions, were quite calm, just asking how her and her brother were doing. Fine. Okay, well then we're going to go back to bed, try and get some sleep. Phew, I'm in the clear. Her dad utters a phrase I won't soon forget. I am just going to use the bathroom before we go. And steps into my hiding place. Placing the flashlight on the bathroom counter, beam up, I see the silhouette of a large man walk over to within 3 feet of me and take a piss. I'm fairly sure my heart stopped beating, just to make sure he couldn't detect me at all. He finishes, wastes his one flush, come on people, when the power is out, follow the mantra, if it's brown, flush it down, if it's yellow, let it mellow, and departs. Parents leave, she comes and gets me, we both shit bricks. And then we continue into her room, so I can GTFO ASAP. I get fully dressed, and am sitting on the edge of her bed putting on my last sock when both of our eyes shoot to the bottom of her bedroom door. Flashlights. I quickly discern that I don't have the time to get out the window undetected, but spot that her bed has a fairly decent rise to it, and luckily for me, was uncluttered underneath. I drop to the floor and ninja vanish mere moments before her parents enter her room. Again, inconsequential chit-chat, and I feel like I am in the clear. I sigh a breath of relief and let my head rest on her carpet, looking out into the room, directly into the eyes of her 5-year-old brother lying on the floor, now wide awake and staring into my soul. I'm done. I'm busted. I'm dead. Christian father kills horny teenager is going to be the headline in the newspaper the next day, guaranteed. A million options flash through my mind until I decide on a brilliantly simple choice. Bringing one finger up to my lips, I make the sign for silence and secrecy. Thank FSM for the playful naivety of children, because he simply smiled and returned the gesture. Her parents departed, and shortly after, so did I, to enjoy my walk home in the pouring hot summer rain, with ample time to ponder how close I came to a serious shit beating. Worth it. Be warned, this is going to be a bit of an epic as it spans several periods of time. I met this cute blonde girl, let's call her Sarah, while getting off the airplane upon arriving back at college at the end of summer vacation. I helped an old woman off the plane with her luggage, and Sarah thought it was cute, so she came over and started chatting me up. We make small talk and wait by the baggage claim together, then exchange numbers and mutually agree that we should hang out sometime. I forget about the whole thing and school/work starts back up. Then a few days later in the evening I get a phone call. It's Sarah. She's drunk. She manages to tell me that she thinks I'm really cute and she wants to see me, so we make plans for the following night. She's taking the train in. I lived in the city and she lived in the burbs, and I'm supposed to meet her at the station. As I arrive at the station, my cell phone dies. I start to panic thinking I'll never find her amidst all the other people. If only I had been so lucky. So it starts off fine, and we go have a beer, then decide to go to a hookah bar I know of. We get there and share a hookah, chat some more, order a drink, and then I switch to tea. She stays on the hard stuff, getting more and more sauced as the night goes on. I want to say something, but I don't feel I know her well enough to cut her off, and I had recently found out from her that she was in the Navy, and thus was a salty sailor who could drink most guys twice her size under the table. All of a sudden she says she feels sicker and wants to go back to my place. I ask her if maybe she needs to stop by the bathroom, but she insists she's fine, just feeling claustrophobic. So I get a cab for us, and we're on our way. It's maybe a 4-minute cab ride from the hookah bar to my place, and she's resting her head on my shoulder in a snuggly type of way. About halfway there, with no warning at all, she pukes all over the back of the cab and me. I don't react at all, and my head is thinking, really? Really? Shai. The cab driver starts flipping his shit, and I tell him to calm down, and that I'll take care of it once we get to my place. So we get there and I bring her upstairs to my place, clean her up a bit, and lay her on the couch with a blanket over her, then grab some cleaning supplies and head back down to the cab. So me and this cabbie are scrubbing the back of his cab in silence for a while, and suddenly we start to crack up at how ridiculous the situation is. This was the high point of my night. I tip him $50 for the inconvenience, and he was cool about it, and head back upstairs. When I get up there, she has moved from the couch into my bed. I'm way too grossed out to do anything with her, having just cleaned up her vomit for the last half hour, so in disgust I fall asleep on the couch. The next day, she vaguely apologizes and says she doesn't remember much. I decide not to make a big deal out of it, and give her the benefit of the doubt, thinking it was probably just a bad combination or something. It's the weekend and she wants to see the city, so I take her out to a couple museums, and we walk around a lot. Evening comes yet again, day 2, and not wanting her to overdo it again, suggest we head back to my place, have a glass of wine, and chill out. She happily agrees, and we get back safe and sound. We split a bottle of red and start making out on the couch. So far, so good. I should mention, being ex-military, this girl has a perfect body. She hints that she wants to move to the bed, so we do so, then get naked and start rolling around with each other. We trade a little foreplay, and I get up to grab a condom. I put it on, then get back in bed and prepare for the big move. And this is when it all goes to shit. I put the tip in, and she immediately breaks down in tears. Not tears of pain, but like emotional tears. What the fuck? I ask her what's wrong and she starts sobbing. He told me he loved me. He told me he loved me, and I will still always love him. So I spend the next 2 hours embracing her shuddering body with the condom still on my deflated penis, providing a Freudian therapy session to this girl who had puked all over me in a taxi the previous night. Eventually she calms down enough to fall asleep in my bed again, and I am too weirded out to deal with that, so I again sleep on the couch in my own apartment. The next day I walk her to the train station, glad to be free of her, and we hug and part ways. She says she's going to miss me, and I kind of awkwardly smile, not knowing how to respond. I never spoke to her again. She still tries to call me once a month, and leaves me crazy messages telling me how much she misses me. About 5 to 6 years ago, I was talking to this girl on MySpace, and we talked for about 2 months. We text, we called, etc. She gave me this pretty early in that she had some kind of heart problem, but it wasn't that bad. I was born with asthma, so I'm not one to judge whether I should date someone on something like that. So I finally convince her to meet me at the mall for lunch. Nothing big. I get to the mall 15 minutes early and go to where we were supposed to meet, and I end up waiting for an hour and a half past our meet time. I sent a few texts asking if anything was wrong or running late, and even tried calling a couple times before I left to go home. Not a single response. So I got stood up, not too big of a deal usually. Hurt a little more seeing as I spent 2 months getting to know her already, and didn't expect to be stood up. But that's not the worst part. Over the next couple of days I sent a couple of texts and tried calling a couple times, and left a couple of messages on her MySpace, trying to figure out what happened. Not mad or angry, just kind of confused and trying to clear things up. Well, 3 days later, it's Saturday now, I had computer animation class that ran from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I get a TXT from her saying that it's Herb's sister, and that the girl I was supposed to meet died 2 days ago from her heart condition. It's like 10 a.m. by now, and I'm in class, so I had to step outside and I tried calling her number, and no one answered. So I text back and her sister texts me back telling me that she is not kidding, and that she died and is being cremated, and started spouting obscenities through texts telling me that I should have been there at the hospital, and I wasn't there, making me feel like shit and still won't answer my calls, and eventually tells me to never call or TXT the number again. I definitely was not finishing the rest of class that day, so I went home, and it gets better/worse. So 2 days later I'm checking my mail on MySpace and I'm feeling like shit, and so I thought I would check out her profile, and I noticed that I'm not friends with her anymore. So I thought that maybe her sister was so pissed that she got on her account and unfriended me, and even blocked me. So I made a throwaway account and went to look at her profile just to at least see her pictures, and I noticed that there was a new picture posted within the last 6 hours of her with her friends, and her and them were commenting on the picture like it happened the day before. So the only thing I could think was WTF. It's now been like 6 to 7 days since the day we were supposed to meet, and 5 to 6 days since she supposedly died, and made me feel like shit. So I messaged her with the throwaway account telling her I thought she was cute and would love to talk and get to know her, and she gave me her number, the same number I was using this whole time. I didn't do anything else. I got the hint. She played me, and for no reason made me feel like shit. So I decided she wasn't worth my time. 3 months later, I was on a 4th or 5th date with a girl at that same mall, and we were getting ice cream, and I went to turn around and saw her walking my way, and she saw me and she looked like she was going to shit right then, not expecting to see me. So in front of her I kissed my new girlfriend, and looked at her and smiled and continued on our way. Spent a couple months getting to know a girl. Comes time to meet. She fakes her death. I find out and left her alone until I see her in person and kiss my new girlfriend in front of her. I'll need to describe the lead up to fully paint the picture. I'd met a girl while I was completely written off outside a bar, so couldn't really remember her, and had been messaging her through the week. I had wanted to take her out to dinner, but she seemed set on a town date because she was more comfortable after a few drinks with her friends, which I agreed to. After the night had progressed, I eventually went to go see her. While it didn't bother me too much, she had gained maybe 20 to 25 kilograms since her latest Facebook photos, and was extremely intoxicated. Most of the date, she spent telling me how much she loved me, sucking my face off and trying to mount me in a busy bar. After some debating between the bro council I had with me, it was decided I should go back to hers, because I wasn't sure I'd be able to perform, lack of attraction. My mates gave me a Viagra. Fast forward a 20-minute/$35 cab fare, we were at her place. Upon entry, she requested I remove my shoes, and we made our way to her bedroom. Halfway there, I stepped in her dog's piss, and then some other kind of animal poo with my other foot. She keeps gerbils in an open next to her bed. The dirty work has begun, but she wouldn't strip and wanted the lights off. I proceeded to go down on her, but after a minute or so I realized the texture was wrong. She felt my hesitation and confessed she started her period today. After the lights went on and many a gags at the blood and discharge consumed had been had, I decided to finish the job. She had a ventriloquist doll, possibly from Goosebumps, in a chair watching us because she liked it and wouldn't let me move it. After a while I couldn't continue anymore and asked to shower, nearing 5:30 a.m. Sunday, but she wouldn't let me because her father, former Bosnian soldier, would kill me if he saw me with his daughter. So while she has gone to get me toilet paper to clean up, I've gotten changed and am ready to go. This seemed to upset her, and she has asked me to sleep with her just a bit. She wrapped herself around me and passed out. I waited maybe 15 minutes to confirm and jimmied myself free, using a pillow as a substitute. Upon trying to flee, again stepping in the piss, I've realized all the exits are deadlocked and the windows barred, all except this tiny screened window in the bathroom. After minimal consideration, I pushed the screen out and started to crawl through when suddenly she has awoken and is calling for me. With no time to waste, I've launched off the hand basin, knocking stuff off, and through the window, until my Viagra-fueled boner rammed straight into the side window. Internally squealing in pain, I corrected myself and slithered to freedom, just as I heard her reach the bathroom corner. Drunk, dehydrated, disoriented, and still at full mast, I ran for around 10 minutes until I hit a main road and got a cab home. She rang me 6 times that day and 4 the next, leaving several voicemails and messages. Girl wanted a town date, was significantly chubbier than FB photos, loved me, locked me in with crazy father, stepped in animal excrement, unknowingly ate her period, night of the living dummy, Indiana Jones-like escape resulting in Viagra-fueled boner ramming into window, $70 in cab fares. So a few people don't believe my post, and I will concede that it does sound almost too ridiculous to have actually happened, but it did. I'm sure many of you poor bastards have had similar experiences with a man or woman, maybe both simultaneously, and I was just the unlucky bloke who found a gal who ticked all the boxes. I am happy to provide more detail on the iffy points, should they burden your hearts so. I have a few more unfortunate stories which I will wait until an appropriate thread pops up for. There really was no logic involved. I wasn't even horny, just curious and vulnerable to peer pressure. I've been in some weird situations, but never like that, so kinda just went with the flow. Sure, I'm assuming. You are all sober now, and thus the warning signs are very visible, but to an inebriated man. Though part of me wanted to know what she expected to happen the next day when her dad woke up. Also to clarify, a town date isn't really a term as such. I just wanted to articulate that she wanted to meet me in town and get drunk rather than a more conventional evening. Yes, this should have been a big warning sign, but she seemed mad hot in her Facebook, so I went along with it, uneasy face. Written off is when you are too drunk to really continue functioning.